and then we'll recite the verses. Ananda Bihari Prabhu, are you going to be sharing the screen for the verses? You'll do that? Okay. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Ebevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare So I'm going to recite the Sanskrit for 21 to 23 consecutively, and then I'll read the translations for all in English and read, there's two short purports. So 21. Shri Shuka Avacha Ekada Dvaravatyam tu Viprapatnyaha Kumarakaha Jata Matro Bhavam Shrista Mamara Kila Bharata Vipro Gritva Mritakam Rajadvaryupadhaya Saha Idam Provacha Velapan Aturodina Manasaha Brahmadvisha Satadhiyo Lubdasya Vishayatmanaha Shatrabandho Karma Doshat Panchatvam Me Gathoribakaha. Translations for 21, verse 21 through to 23. Shukadev Goswami said, once in Dwarka, a Brahmana's wife gave birth to a son, but the newborn infant died as soon as he touched the ground, O Bharat. The purport Srila Prabhupada says, in this chapter, Lord Vishnu has been glorified as the Supreme Godhead. Now Sukadev Goswami is going to identify Lord Krishna with that same personality of Godhead by describing another pastime of his, one which highlighted his unequaled divine characteristics. Verse 22, the Brahmin took the corpse and placed it at the door of King Ugrasena's court. Then, agitated and lamenting miserably, he spoke the following. The Brahmana said, this duplicitous, greedy enemy of Brahmanas, this unqualified ruler addicted to sense pleasure, has caused my son's death by some discrepancies in the execution of his duties. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Presuming that he himself had done nothing to cause his son's death, the Brahmin thought it reasonable to blame King Ugrasena. In the Vedic social system, the monarch is considered responsible for everything occurring in his kingdom, good or bad. Even in a democracy, a manager who takes charge of some group or project should accept personal responsibility for any failure, rather than, as is so common today, trying to place the blame on his subordinates or superiors. So, as it describes in verse 21, these three verses that we are just discussing today, they're opening verses to introduce a pastime which ultimately goes on to glorify Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But these particular verses, and we're hearing this from the verses, but particularly in Srila Prabhupada's purport to verse 23, is that they are highlighting the theme and the power of accountability. The power and the theme of accountability. Now, accountability is a natural counterpart to free will. Right? If we have free will, the ability to make choices, we also have a field within which each of us exercises that free will. These particular verses are talking about the field of activities of a king and the impact that has on the citizens, their choices, their free will, the accountability they have, and the responsibility they have. But each and every single one of us, regardless of our roles, regardless of our position, we have a field of activities. We have a within which we exercise our choices, within which we enjoy the results of our choices, within which we experience the consequences of our choices, within which we have to endure the consequences of our choices as well, and also within which, the field within which, the region within which our choices have an impact on other people. And this is not just to do with roles. This is also to do with the relationships we have within our jurisdiction. So this verse might, on the surface, be speaking particularly about the accountability in leadership, the accountability of a king to his citizens. But actually, beyond that, if we go deeper than that, go to the heart of what Bhagavatam is actually really about, these verses are there to highlight how, looking at the relationship between accountability, free will, and responsibility, we can actually deepen our relationship with Krishna. Those three things can also be, how we understand them, not just a vehicle for deepening our relationship with Krishna, but reminding us that no matter how we balance our accountability and free will, this place will never really feel like home. If we look at the science of, why is this Brahmana so upset? Why is he blaming King Ugrasena? He's lost his child immediately after birth. He can see, it's describing here how he can see he hasn't done anything to cause the child's death. So surely it must be something to do with the person who is ruling the kingdom. Now, when we are talking about divine leadership, we're talking about servant leadership. And if we look at texts like the Manusamhita, and Prabhupada quotes often from the Manusamhita, particularly when he's talking about the logistics of leadership and human dynamics, and he speaks about how leaders are accountable and get 1/6 of the collective karma of their citizens, whether that is positive, whether it's pious, or whether it is sinful. And they have such a big role in setting up a society, whether these are leaders by, roles and responsibilities like Kshatriyas are, or leaders by vision, so Brahmanas. So they have a responsibility in that they are making choices, they're executing things in such a way that it gives their citizens the best chance at evolving their consciousness, strengthening their spiritual life, while simultaneously flourishing in their human life. Because Our body is a temple and our heart is an altar. And a servant leader of whatever type understands this science and doesn't just live by this science and make choices by this science for their dependents, but actually, before all of that, lives by that science for themselves. You know, we hear in so many pastimes in Bhagavatam, whether it's the pastimes of divine leadership like Lord Ram, you know, of course, Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or we look at the leadership of the great devotees like Prithu Maharaj or Ambarish Maharaj. When we read about their kingdoms, we read and we hear that their kingdoms were not full of suffering of any kind. The seasons behaved exactly as they should. Nobody was short of anything. People were free to act according to their nature. Everyone felt looked after, and most importantly, the citizens are accustomed to progressing in their spiritual life. So this Brahmana, actually, he wasn't playing the blame game in one sense. He was actually understanding the science of leadership, of divine monarchy. And that's why he went to complain to the king. That's why he left the body of his departed child at the gates of the king's palace. Not because he wasn't thinking about his role, but he was thinking about, he really was well versed in understanding that if something so unfortunate has happened and I can't see my role in it, then there's someone who's more responsible, who's accountable. Somebody beyond me, beyond my role, has not lived properly, has not made decisions wisely. And so now I'm having to suffer because of it. Because again, the same way that the king is responsible, you know, and gets 1/6 of the collective karma, equally, it is a reciprocal relationship. The choices of the king also, they very much impact the citizens. So this is, you know, this verse really speaks to something we keep coming back to as devotees, is that community is very important because consciousness is contagious, consciousness is impactful, and consciousness is shared. So because we share consciousness, each of our individual decisions has an impact on the people around us, as well as an impact on the layers of ourself and the different facets of ourself. Don't think that any decision we make only affects us and us alone. That is never the case because we're also connected. It is an eternal truth. There's an absolute truth that we are connected. Loneliness is a relative truth. Isolation is a relative truth. Connection is absolute. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time looking at this topic of accountability, responsibility. You know, you look at the word responsibility, the word response is in there, right? The ability to respond. Right? Who am I accountable to? We're accountable to ourselves. We're accountable to those who depend on us. We're also accountable to Krishna. Who we are accountable to, who we're conscious of our accountability to, sets a standard for us. It's a driving force. It's a parameter against which we make our choices. It is a natural symptom of consciousness. Evolving consciousness means increased awareness. So a lesser evolved consciousness is we are simply aware of what's going on with the body. A little bit more evolved, we're aware of what's going on in our mind. A bit more evolved, we're aware of what's going on for other people. Maybe more evolved society. Most evolved, what's going on with the real self. And even more evolved, what's going on for Krishna? What's going on for the super self, the super soul? So this accountability, our responsibility, is very much linked with what our gold standard is. Because our gold standard, our yardstick, is really what determines our level of integrity. And integrity is people talk about integrity, right? When we talk about heads of family, heads of state, heads of temples, heads of a little project, we often seek out and we aspire to become, but also really aspire to be under the leadership of people who have integrity, people and we know this almost intuitively, that somebody who has integrity is integrated. The different layers of their self are integrated. They walk their talk. A person who walks their talk is integrated. They do what they say they're going to do. They behave the way they speak about. Their body, mind, words, and spirit are synchronized, right? We look for this integration or this integrity. Also, in this word integrity, we have the word that's related to is integral. What is integral? What is integral means necessary. What is necessary for us to be integrated? One of the things that's absolutely necessary for us to be integrated is this knowledge and awareness of the different selves. When we don't understand with all our decisions that we are making a decision on behalf of the body, mind, and soul, okay, that our physical self, our social self, our psychological self, and our spiritual self, then we are less likely to be integrated. So it's essential. No, what is essential? What is integral? And also who we're doing all of this for. So all of this extends to others, extends to dependence. Our accountability, our sense of responsibility is underpinned by many things. There's many factors that influence that. We talked about one, which was who we think we are, who we understand ourselves to be. The second area we talked about is our field of activities, right? Our jurisdiction, our degree of free will, or the region within which we express and exercise our free will. There's also the science of karma, that every action has a consequence. But most importantly is what we were talking about, is what's integral to integrity. And that is our relationship with ourselves, our essential self, our spiritual self, and the relationship between ourself and Krishna. And the nature of that relationship. Is it strained? Is it honest? Is it clear? Is it growing? And when we are accountable and exercising our free will, taking responsibility and measuring or using as a gold standard the absolute truth, what would be in the best interests of evolving my consciousness and evolving another person's consciousness, what words, what actions, what thoughts can I engage in that will ultimately bring about the higher good, we then start to move beyond relative truth and situational ethics. Because a lot of the problems we have, whether it's in a small project, in politics, in education, in healthcare, in families, is that being removed, making our choices removed from the absolute truth means we just get involved in relative truth and situational ethics. And when we're involved with just situational ethics and relative truth, someone is always going to suffer. Because that is a symptom of relativity, and that is a symptom of situations, is someone will always suffer. So if we want to create a life which invites enduring happiness, okay, invites enduring happiness and not just temporary joy, then we need to go beyond this relative truth and situational ethics. Because if we look at this idea of enduring happiness, enduring happiness is, it's not something that comes and goes. It's actually a process. Enduring happiness is a process of evolution. Whereas temporary joy is always followed by some sort of pain. So when we look at the science of integrity, when we turn to the Bhagavatam, when we turn to the Bhagavad Gita, when we turn to Krishna, who's really, when he's speaking to Arjun in the Bhagavad Gita, and he is guiding him on how to, because Arjun's, he's having a moment of weakness. Okay. He thinks that fighting this battle of Kurukshetra will compromise his integrity, right? And so Krishna reminds him, first of all, who he is, who he is beyond the temporary, to tell him that, your integrity will move if it's dependent on the changing nature of your human psyche, the changing nature of your social sense of identity, the changing nature of your physicality. One day, what it means, one day one action will feel like you have integrity. That same action the next week will not make you feel like you have integrity. So actually change your conception and get in touch with who you actually are. Who you actually are. And then you can talk about real integrity. Krishna, he speaks very much about how austerity plays a role in allowing us to get a better handle on how to do the best thing, even in the most difficult circumstances. Now, often people think austerity means deprivation, it means withholding, it means suffering and pain. And although elements of those that may be there, especially initially when we engage in austerity, actually, if we look at what austerity really is, austerity is simply nothing more than regulation underpinned by a gold standard. That's what austerity is. And when we regulate against a gold standard, there's always going to be an adjustment. And it's that adjustment that we may experience as, oh, this is pain, this is withholding, this is, difficult. But actually, we're regulating ourselves against a gold standard. And actually, Krishna helps Arjun to find his inner strength by talking about austerities of the mind, austerities of speech, and austerity of the body. And the reason he breaks it down like this is, it's we are multifaceted beings. When Krishna reminds Arjun that he is not just this body and he's not just this mind, he's not telling him, well, ignore your body and ignore your mind. He gives him a science to rediscover who he actually is whilst being in connection with this body and mind. So when Krishna gives Arjun the techniques on what austerity is, of what the austerity of mind is, what austerity of speech is, what austerity of body is, what he's saying is, this is how you regulate your mind, this is how you regulate your speech, this is how you regulate your body, so that those three things, although they are material, they will align with your spiritual self, so that you are a synchronized being. And when we are synchronized, everything around us feels synchronized and becomes synchronized. And if it's not synchronized, Krishna removes it. We can be the conductor of the orchestra to the degree that we are willing to engage in austerity so that we can have integrity. And in this way, without any role or position, we can have a profound impact on the health, well-being, and devotional consciousness of the people that surround us, as well as the consciousness on this planet. So I wanted to share a few things, about austerity of body, mind, and speech that Krishna, speaks about, and the impact this has on us. Because when we engage in this tapodivyam is, tapa means austerity, right? Everybody engages in austerity, even people who are not connected with their spiritual self, people who are not interested, even atheists will engage in austerity. This is regulating against a standard which is going to get me what I want. But tapodivyam is tapasya, or austerity, against the gold standard that Krishna sets. And it enhances our natural strength, the strength of the soul. It allows us to access, not learn, because we already have these things, access the natural empathy, the natural forgiveness, the natural gratitude, the natural mercy, the natural honesty that is part of who we are. So it makes us enthusiastic. Real austerity, tapodivyam, makes us enthusiastic because the results are not just dependent on our biopsychophysical nature. They're reciprocated with, those endeavors are reciprocated with by divinity, by Krishna, by an unconditionally loving person whose unconditional love comes through even through what could appear to be the most impersonal force, like time. So performance of austerity is really important. Regulation is really important to help us develop self-control and to build our character. So if we look at, for example, austerities of the mind, austerity of the mind includes thinking assertively. It requires becoming fearless, being positive, compassionate, and not allowing the mind to be captured by this consciousness of lust, which is what about me? Because the consciousness of love is what about you, right? So the mind becomes strong when we ask, what about you? The mind becomes weak when we get into the space of what about me? What about me? What about me? Now, this is not to say we shouldn't be authentic and realistic about our needs, but when we become preoccupied with our needs, and there is a difference between preoccupation and consideration. We can all measure how much time do I spend just thinking about me, as in what about me, what about me, what about me? And how much time do I realistically spend thinking, okay, this is what I need. Now I have so much more space to think, what about you? So this thinking assertively, positively, and compassionately, it empowers us. A mind like that helps us to take risks. And when we set a good standard for ourselves, then even when temptation comes, even when we're squeezed, we're able to manage things. We're able to regulate things, our speech, our actions, and our thoughts. And even if we make a mistake, we can still have the humility to backtrack, apologize, and correct. So austerity of the mind includes thinking assertively, positively, compassionately, and not allowing the mind to be captured by what about me? When we, and Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that when to develop a mind which is loving and caring, and this is in 17:16 of the Bhagavad Gita, satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are austerities of the mind. Srila Prabhupada says that to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. So again, we look at our 4 principles of freedom. They're about regulation. They're not about deprivation. They're about regulation. We then look at austerity of speech, 17:15. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also regularly reciting Vedic literature. Okay, so there is that, again, there's that gold standard. Be truthful, be pleasing, be beneficial, and don't agitate others. This is authenticity. This is authenticity. Because when we speak in a non-offensive way, we empower other people to not have to respond in an offensive way. They feel empowered to also respond in a non-offensive way. Have you ever tried being polite to a person who's really angry at you, it disarms them. It disarms them. You can give the heaviest truth in a pleasing way with the mood that I want to benefit this person. And even if that person is not in a mindset right now to receive it, they will be disarmed. Watch it. Try it. Try it with your loved ones. Try it with the people closest to you. Try it with them. You'll be amazed at how years of old patterns of communication just get vroom, cut. Just like they'll be surprised. Oh, I don't normally speak to me like this. They may not even say that out loud. They may just think, well, what? Hang on a minute, this is something new. It's almost like their conditioned mind doesn't even know how to react. Like, what is this? The truth in a pleasing way that's beneficial to me. They'll take a double take. So, and also this regularly reciting Vedic literature. We become what we talk about. We become what we talk about. And then thirdly, in 1714, austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. See, when it comes to leadership, responsibility, accountability, projects, making decisions, our modern culture has got us caught up so much in the how to do it that we've removed ourselves from the why to do it. And if we look at austerities of the body, mind, and speech that Krishna is giving Arjun here, and that Srila Prabhupada so nicely comments on, it's all to do with the why. And not just to do with the why, but the why becomes most important when we think about who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? And if we look at all of these activities, whether it's our japa, whether it's, worshipping the Supreme Lord, the brahmanas, regulating our speech, having grave thoughts, loving thoughts, compassionate thoughts, being clean, being simple, having non-violent communication. Why? Why do those things? Who are we doing those for? When we change that, then the logistics of how to do things become empowered. This is what empowerment means. This is what Shakti Avesha Avatar. Shakti Avesha Avatar is, Krishna's empowered incarnations. You look at Brahma, he's empowered because he allows himself to be empowered by getting out of his own way. By engaging in these activities, by not getting so caught up in the logistics. I overheard a conversation with one of the, we recently had the association of Shiva March. He stayed with us, and he was asking a manager, how much are you reading? What's your sadhana like? After they'd got through all the logistical stuff. He's a very senior manager. And I was amazed. He was asking with such compassion. And the manager admitted, to him, I'm so busy with, this and this and this. Sadhana's been up and down. And Maharaj said, it's a very common symptom of managers that sadhana is poor. But it's important that you improve your sadhana. You pay attention to it. You take care of yourself in that way. And you'll find that you'll be empowered with ideas and abilities beyond your own in your management. It was just so heartwarming, to see it communicated like that. This is what Krishna is doing with Arjun. He's lovingly saying, if you think of me in all your activities, you align your activities in a way that nourishes the real you, everything else will be empowered in a way where, you will go beyond your conditioning, whether your conditioning is of trauma, whether your conditioning is of a lux life, or both those things can debilitate our spiritual life, So, yeah, just some thoughts. I pray that they help you, serve you in some way today, maybe this week, maybe beyond that. Thank you for giving me the privilege and pleasure of sharing some thoughts and purifying myself by studying these verses. Over to you. I was asked to leave some time at the end for your questions and comments and realizations. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Dave Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Do you want to unmute?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, thank you. That was amazing. So much to reflect on, so much to think about. Yeah, thank you for so much.
My pleasure. Did you have a comment or question, Dave?
Yeah, I kind of actually kind of made some notes, kind of like around accountability, kind of
Mm,
I thought that was really interesting and kind of managing that around other people as well. And I think that's something that I would have at this moment in time would have to go away and reflect on a bit more. I think kind of like how you manage people that are your loved ones, but also people that you work with in my day
mm,
job, and
mm.
I think that's one that yeah, that's someone that I would have to continually work on, I think.
Yes, I think we all do, but I think sometimes we make it difficult for ourselves by trying to change too much at the same time.
Mm,
I find something that really helps me is to slow it down and break it down.
mm,
Start with one
yeah,
action, start with one person. Because if we start with one action and one person and become expert at that, then it becomes much easier to introduce the next action and the next person. And there's a humility and honesty to that, about being, improving our quality of accountability. See, because we live in a society where everybody wants to enjoy their free will, but nobody wants the accountability, right?
yeah,
Oh, let me do whatever I want, but I don't want to have all the consequences. I only want some of the consequences, right?
mm,
So so there is a degree of just stopping and going, okay, I made this choice. This is the pleasure it's going to bring. This is the pain it's going to bring. This is the impact this is going to have on other people. And this is how they are likely to respond to me. What is it that I want to adjust and change? Why am I finding it difficult? Where is my mind trying to get me to cheat? Because if we start being honest about the fact that we have a cheating mentality, we're less likely to succumb to the cheating mentality, right? So, and a lot of this, a lot of what we think about, right? There's that understanding that whatever we think about eventually becomes something we act on, right? Because what we think about, we'll talk about. And when you talk about something, you start to meditate on it and make a plan. We know this from our conversations. We then start to act on it. If we repeatedly act on it, it becomes habit. And then that habit starts to spread because when other people see somebody doing something repeatedly, whether it's the way they speak, the way they dress, the way they make decisions, they adopt it, right? Whatever a great person does, other people follow. Krishna says this, and we see this. But then when other people adopt those habits, becomes culture. But what is it that influences our thoughts? Before every thought comes exposure. So if we really want to change how we live, we have to make a scrutinizing analysis of what is it that I spend my time listening to? What is it that I spend my time watching? Because that is what's programming my intelligence, my mind, my heart, my spiritual intelligence, or not. It's either nourishing or it's not nourishing. And how can I stop and be honest with myself? Where am I finding discrepancies in my life? Where is it that I feel like, you know what? I just can't get past a certain thing. Where do I feel cheated? Because if we're feeling cheated somewhere, we can be sure as anything that we are trying to cheat somewhere else. So break it down. Stop. Start with one person, start with one action. And be honest with us. I find just being honest with myself helps me to be honest with other people. It's humbling. I go, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I tried to cheat there.
mm,
I lied there. I went for the lower principle there. I slipped up and didn't speak the truth in a palatable way. That is my truth. But why did it have to be so harsh? Thank you, Prabhu.
thank you.
Um, I think I'll take one question now, then I think we have Darshan, and then I'm happy to come back and take more discussion points. Jamuna Jay?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for a beautiful, beautiful class. Just two quick things I just want to reflect. Your statement about us remembering when we make decisions, it impacts more than us. Really hit home. I'm in a position in life I have to make a lot of decisions for a lot of people. So that was so helpful. So thank you for saying that. And also, I really loved what you had to say about when we live in the material world, it's hard to keep our integrity. I love that point. Ranath Maharaj speaks often about integrity being the only thing that that can be taken from us. It's the thing we have to give away. And I loved how you unpack that if we live in this material world, it's extremely hard to keep the integrity because it doesn't foster those connections for us. So thank you so much for saying that. That was really wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for your joyful smile.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Ananda Bihari Prabhu, should we move to darshan and then come back, or should I take
Let's take
Sadhvi?
Sadhvi's question. She's always very sincere and thoughtful.
Okay, I'll take Sadhvi's question. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Sadhvi.
Krishna, thank you very much for today's class.
Thank you.
I give you an example for something so that maybe that way I can, the question comes better from that. Let's say that there's a person who has gone through serious situation in their childhood, in teenage years, in the young years, and so on and so on, and doesn't understand why all this happening, but still have the very strong belief in Supreme Lord, in the Creator. But then this person gets to learn that you wanted that, you asked for it, and everything what you are doing is because of everything what you have gone through is because of what you have done. It's like something is like someone puts in the prison without this person knowing why, doesn't remember nothing, doesn't know nothing about why, but still the warden come and tell him, you have done that. You have to, you have to accept it. You have to accept it. Then it will be somewhat, either this person of the fear says, okay, I'm sorry for what I have done. Okay, I'm sorry. Without knowing if this person, what I have done. But okay, I just lie, I just say, accept it, just to skip the more torture. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
yes.
How can a person take it to the heart without just say it just because? You know what I mean?
I completely understand what you're saying, and it's such a important question. And it comes up regularly.
During the afterglow, can we answer that? That's a great question.
You want me to answer it now or after darshan?
Afterglow, yes, during the afterglow. This is a cliffhanger. Stay tuned.
And the only way by which we can attain the purpose of the sermon. By its grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord. My iniquity is destroyed. May the scriptures sing this character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. The fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet.
Thank you, John. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Citi Shakti Devi, thank you so much for staying overtime with us. So let's do it. Let's answer Sadhvi's question. Unmute, 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 unmute.
Sorry, just to recap. So Sadhvi, your question was that, sometimes, especially when we really suffer in this life, especially with earlier life, early years suffering, where it may be at the hands of a child is not free to make choices, and they can't always protect themselves. One can be left wondering, okay, I understand that everything I've done is a consequence of my choices. I'm not getting anything more than I deserve. But it's like you've put someone in prison, you're punishing them, and you haven't told them what they've done wrong, because we don't see the relationship between what we're going through and what we originally did. It's a really good question, because I think every single person will go through this lifetime and at least once ask, why me? Why me? All of us. Because each of our individual pain feels most painful to us. Everybody, each of us thinks my pain is the worst pain that there is. And I'm being serious here. I have patients in my clinic. I remember one patient in my clinic started crying in the clinic because she was stressed. Oh, having panic attacks. Why? Oh, we've got to spend £5,000 by the end of the month, or we'll lose that £5,000. It's a stipend from the company. I smiled. I looked at her. I was like, you're having a panic attack about having too much money to spend. And I smiled. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. And she looked at me. She started laughing in the middle of her tears. She goes, first world problems? I said, yeah. She goes, not for the psychiatrist room. I said, that's up to you. Bring what you want. This is what I'm saying. Each person's pain feels most painful to them. This is the nature of the mind. But I hear what you're saying. It is very difficult when we are enduring something that universally would be accepted as a painful situation, right? And it feels like, what did I do to deserve this? Yes, I understand philosophically. So first of all, the analogy of the prison only takes us so far, because if we look at prisons, the punishment you get in a prison is the same for everyone. It doesn't matter if you murdered someone, if you stole, if you're a pedophile. The only thing that changes is how long you're in prison. Otherwise, it's the same. You're locked up somewhere, you're kept away, you're given rubbish food, you have to work hard, Yeah, I know you hear about all these big mafia people who have luxurious prisons, rooms and things like that. But generally, your punishment is not really particularly scientifically allocated. It's quite a basic, like, here we go. It's not individualized. Okay, it's not particularly individualized. You're either right or wrong, or you did bad or you did good. But when we look at the science of karma, which is an impersonal feature of Krishna's reciprocation with us, we get things on the karmic platform to the degree that we are impersonal with him, to the degree that we don't recognize him as an individual, but we just interact with him as his external energies. The responses to our choices are very individualized. They're not just based on our actions, they're also based on our consciousness at the time of executing the action. So this is why this topic of living consciously, making choices according to a gold standard where we go beyond situational ethics and relativity and feeling good is so important. Because when we find ourselves in a situation which is painful, we can work backwards from it, because we know karma is individualized. We can work backwards from it and understand that what is happening to me, and it is really painful to admit this to ourselves because it feels horrible. Okay, it feels like God must be cruel to do this. But actually, if we really pare it back, go, whatever is happening to me, either I did exactly the same thing to someone else, or I did worse and my consciousness was a bit better, or I did better but my consciousness was worse. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make, though, alongside this is, if we were to remember what we did as well as had to endure the consequences of what we've done, it would be too much. We would shut down.
We would all be in your clinic.
That was going to be my next sentence, right? Even in this lifetime, if we remembered every pain we suffered as a result of our choices from the moment we were born, even through our teenage years, we would be living with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of trauma. when I see clients who have done things to other people, okay, and as a consequence of whatever the condition they're going through, and they start to remember and really analyze what they did, it becomes, they go through a period where it's paralyzing. When I speak to clients who are remembering what's happened to them, it can become paralyzing. Imagine having to remember both. Exactly what I've done to another person and then everything that they've done to me. When Krishna says knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness comes from him, that is part of the individual, his individual response to each of us as individuals in our karma. Because karma is not just what happens to us. It's not just events. It's not just experience. Most karma plays out in the mind. It's our response to our experiences. So when we understand, and it's not so much that just accept that what you did to somebody else is happening to you. Actually, the thing we really need to accept is whatever's happening to us, the hand behind that is a loving, compassionate one. Because, you know, we are wired in such a way that if we experience the exact same pain that we've inflicted on another person, we just don't do it again. We just don't. We don't even think about it. I guarantee there are some degrees of harm to others. If I asked you all to think about it, you wouldn't be able to even allow yourself to imagine it. You couldn't even get the construct in your mind. You know, your mind won't even go there because you've already gone through the process of doing it, been there, done that, suffered the consequences. There's no way I'm even going to let my mind tread that path again. This may sound like a very philosophical explanation, but when Krishna starts to become more of a person, and he becomes more of a person the more we chant personally. The more we chant personally, the more Krishna becomes a person to us. The more he becomes a person to us, we then actually really realize, gosh, it's very unlikely that I'm even suffering as much as I should, because this process that I'm engaging in is clearing more than I could ever do. I'm being protected so much, you know? So no one's asking anyone blindly accept, read, hear, but most of all, chant personally. What is personal? There's so many layers to chanting personally. There's a really nice explanation from Sanatan Goswami to chant with Adhar, which is affectionate respect. I have affection for you, Krishna. I have respect for you because even though I've turned away from you so many times, you've given me a manual, many manuals on how to come close to you. So at least let me call your name with affectionate respect. So no, we're not being blindly put in a prison of suffering. Whatever we're going through, good or bad, pleasurable or displeasurable, is an individualized program for ourselves. It's not a blanket prison sentence. And it changes. And it is underpinned by a loving person. It's motives to bring us back to him as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, Chiti Shakti. Sadhvi Devi, are you satisfied with the answer?
Thank you very much. I just want to say it's not that I'm saying why is me, why me, why me. I'm not after that at all. I just want to understand how to put it, get it in my heart and in my mind that let it be, just let it be, and just do your best. And it's kind of difficult, you know, when I have gone through the years of my life, and I am in a very, very old age now. And now when I suddenly have learned about it, it's difficult for me because I have some kind of problem with the body, so that I can't do all the services that everybody can do. Then I think, okay, now even that even I can't, I don't get to do a service.
Yes, yes. I
You know what
understand
I
what
mean?
you're
So
saying.
that,
And I hear your desire to just let it be, but you can't just jump to let it be. Because what you're doing is you're not letting it be, you're letting it live in you. That's why your body's sick. When we keep trauma in our body and we don't let it, because you don't want it to let it be, you want to let it go. Because when you let it go, your body will release it and it won't suffer so much pain. But you're holding on to it. Your body is reliving that trauma over and over again. So Krishna sends us tools. All these healing tools we have, they are part of his mercy, you know, whether it's therapy, whether it's medication, things that help to heal the mind. Yes, our sadhana helps, but we have to also take measures, talk to people, read books about overcoming trauma. We need to do that work. It's to jump to just let it be or just let it go is a really big ask. And I don't think Krishna expects anyone to just go, oh, it's okay. You know, I was traumatized. My body's suffering. Hare Krishna. I don't need to do anything about it. I'll just wait until I'm a pure devotee. No, we do part, like, you know, enduring happiness is a process. Part of that process is accessing all the tools that and facilities Krishna's given us to get this body and mind wholesome. You know, so please do what you need to do. You don't have to just jump to let it be or let it go. Go through the process. You deserve it. You deserve it.
thank
Krishna loves you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. We have Adipusha Prabhu and Bhima Prabhu glowing with desire to glorify Krishna.
Amazing.
Let's see what they have to say. Adipusha Prabhu.
Well, brilliant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, Prabhupada, what to say? First of all, brilliant, brilliant class. Very intelligent breakdown of leadership and accountability and how there's a reaction for what we do and how it affects other people. That's a very important point. We understand that there is a connection. And I've been listening to this story for decades and decades and decades. We've gone through this part of the Bhagavatam again and again. And every time I hear it, just like Mataji just brought this point up, you know, how does Krishna fit in? How does Krishna fit into this situation? What's his role about it? And this, as far as I can understand, please correct me if I'm wrong. What is this, you know, twist? The awkward point of information is that this Brahmin is blaming the king and saying you're responsible and you have failed to control your senses, and therefore there's a reaction that's, you know, bleeding down into the population. Different things are happening because you're not controlling your senses and you're not fully Krishna conscious. It seems like that's what he's accusing the king of.
Mm.
My question would be, has always been over the years, well, is it true? Did the king fail to control his senses? Is that what happened? And, you know, that's why this is happening to this man and his son. But then how does Krishna fit into the equation? The class always sets off this long philosophical thing about accountability and consequences of our activities, and then how it affects others. But then, as far as I can understand, please correct me, surprise, Krishna says, no, you didn't do anything. I did it because I wanted Arjuna to come and see me. You know, so how Krishna fitted into it was like kind of unusual. That it was, although there is a fact that the king is responsible, the leadership is responsible, the head of the family is responsible, the temple president is responsible for everything that happens. But in this case, as far as is this correct that actually Krishna said, no, he didn't do anything wrong, I did this. Is that true? Did I get that or not?
Yes, yes. And I'm sure whoever gives the classes over the next few days will unpack this more. But yeah, like I said at the start, these 3 verses, they're just the opening to the next part of this chapter, which really is there to establish Krishna as the supreme. Because actually what ends up unfolding is Arjun comes, he, you know, because the Brahmin ends up losing 9 children. And Arjun comes saying he's going to protect. He fails to protect, and so Arjun starts looking high and low through all the different universes, can't find the children, and so starts to enter the sacrificial, you know, fire. And then Krishna comes, And Krishna says, come on, let's go. And he goes to Mahavishnu, and the children are with Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu said, I took the children because I wanted to see you both. And as they're leaving, Arjun realizes, my gosh, hang on a minute. Krishna must be even more superior to Mahavishnu because Mahavishnu wanted to see Krishna. So, and Krishna didn't do this to save the children, because if he did it to save the Brahmana's children, he would have just saved the first one straight away. But actually, he did it because he waited that long because he wanted to see Arjun. So, yes, there is all of that there. And I think your point, though, coming back to your original point, is yes, it opens with all of this accountability, but actually it wasn't Ugrasena's fault. It wasn't the Brahmana's fault. Krishna had a completely different plan. Now, what's interesting is when, as someone's servant leadership, as someone's decision making, as their surrender to the Lord becomes more and more and more refined, more and more and more aligned, they make decisions based on their calling, their direct communication from the super soul or from the spiritual master. And they can make a pivot very quickly. Okay? So sometimes maybe we may see these with great saintly personalities. They will change a situation like this or make a decision like this, which is above and beyond karma, regular, laws of human beings, right? So we have to also remember that this particular pastime is taking place whilst Krishna is on the planet. It actually happens before the Battle of Kurukshetra, Prabhupada explains. And so remember, when Krishna's on the planet, the other souls who are in his environment, they're not ordinary people. Maharaj Ugrasena is not an ordinary person. So even the general citizens, they're not going to just be your regular people. They're going to be souls who have taken birth at the same time as Krishna, especially if they have attraction for Krishna, who have taken birth to perfect their life and go back to Goloka Vrindavan after that lifetime, after that birth. So the environment and time that this is taking place in, actually, in the way this story starts is, yes, this story starts, pastime starts with, yes, let's take normal human considerations. But actually, because Krishna's on the planet, because Maharaj Ugrasena is a servant leader, because Arjun is a servant leader, because the Brahmana is probably acting properly, they can, the higher reason that's going on can manifest very clearly and very directly. And it's not covert, it's overt.
They turn to Krishna. They turn
Sorry?
to
Yes.
you hear me? They turn to Krishna, just like transparency means what we have to say is only what we've heard from Guru and Shastra. That's transparency one way. And then if there's credit or blame, we turn to Krishna and say, Krishna, what do we do here? So just like people turn to the leader, to the king turns to Krishna, or Arjuna in this case turns to Krishna. So then it's transparency both ways. When the viceroy collects taxes, he gives it to the government. He's the agent. So the king is the agent of the Lord, and in that way, he's not the responsibility. The buck doesn't stop here. He keeps.
Yes.
He's giving Krishna the credit, and if there's a problem, he turns to Krishna.
Beautiful.
That's
yes, and actually, even more so in this, what's highlighted is Arjun didn't even turn to Krishna. He attracted Krishna because of his integrity. Krishna came to him. Arjun didn't even call him. Krishna came to him. This is, when we are really aligned, regardless of our role, Krishna just comes to us because we attract him. We have a heart that Krishna wants to come to.
Very good.
Thank you. Devaki Priti looks so happy that Krishna comes to her.
Ananda Bihar, wasn't there one other devotee who wanted to ask something before Devaki Priti or make a comment?
That devotee is a gentleman, and he let Devaki Priti speak first.
Okay, no problem.
Hare Krishna, Maharishi Shakti. Thank you so much for your class. I'm so happy and grateful, and I want to go back and re-listen because I feel like there were so many important nuggets just to remember. But I really appreciate that focus on accountability and you breaking down what integrity means, because I've heard Ramaswamy talk about it a lot, and so I feel like I have a better understanding of what that means. And Yeah, I just feel really happy to hear, and I really like what you shared to Sadhvi Devi's question, and just like that we can give ourselves self-compassion if we're not at the point where we want to be, and we can work on getting there. Because I think sometimes with devotees, because we have such a our Krishna conscious has like, you know, where we're trying to get can seem really high. I feel like sometimes, at least speaking for myself, I don't give myself enough self-compassion. Like, it's okay where I'm at, but I'm trying, I'm working to get higher. So I appreciated how you also brought that in about compassion and how we can help ourselves. So thank you so much. I'm just so happy to, I saw you were giving class, and I was like, I'm gonna be there. I can't wait to hear my Shri Shakti. Thank you so much.
Thank you for always being an eager and enthusiastic listener. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, when did you last talk to a psychiatrist? Tell us.
My clinic shut. I'm just here as your servant. Hare Krishna.
This is great. I don't have to pay the fee. Chitti Shakti. Yes, that's the correct pronunciation. Chitti Shakti.
Yes.
Yes.
Chitti Shakti.
That would be the power of wisdom, right? The power of consciousness. Yes.
No, it's actually Chitti Shakti is the combination of Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit Shakti. It's the internal potency.
Well, whatever potency it is, you have it, and and I tell you, you know, when we as devotees hear someone of your gravity, intelligence, and compassion speak, we it nurtures great hope in us that perhaps soon we will have leaders, and we have leaders within the movement, but leaders within the world that can help bring out this truth that you are revealing through this pastime in the Bhagavatam. I didn't really want to say anything because I'm sort of the wisdom shared is enough to ponder. Sort of like when you're eating prasadam, you shouldn't talk. So I'm partaking of this lovely repast of your understanding. I would just like to say one thing, and that is, as a person myself who has recently gone through a very traumatic experience, and unable to handle it, despite all my years and all my chanting and everything, really like. And I remember going to a devotee, temple president who was born and raised in Brooklyn. So he gave him the New York key, and I told him, and you know, when I had told other people, including therapists, you know, what do I do? This is crazy. It's out of control. My mind, everything like that. It's the pain. You know, they'd say, "Oh, you have to go," and there'd be a sort of a sophisticated or complicated way to handle it. But this devotee, he just laughed. It was so funny because it's not a laughable thing. It's not a laughable matter, but he laughed with some, with, it was sort of like the laugh that you would get from a sage. And he says, Prabhu, he goes, there's only one way to deal with this, and this is philosophically. And that is to understand that the storms of this world, whether it be the innocence of a child forcefully taken from them, or as in the pastimes of Arjuna, that Draupadi herself lost all her children due to Ashvatthama, I think it was Ashvatthama. What to speak of Arjuna's eldest son in battle, these so-called very, very unfair incidences that happened with Krishna present. That's a wild thing to think that Draupadi lost all her young children with Krishna present. And we come to understand, yes, that was Leela with Krishna present, but I would like to ask this question: isn't Krishna? You said that Krishna was in this world, and these were not ordinary jivas, etc. But is not Krishna present in this world, right here, right now, and in our heart? And aren't the things that we go through little leelas, and that Krishna that if we look at this, this devotee said to me, you have to see it philosophically. You have to rise above and look down what happened to you. You can't be in it looking out. You have to be above it, looking on it, that there will be these storms. A tree will die, a flower will wilt, whole civilizations are wiped out, fires, etc. You have to understand that is the nature of this world, and it's not, even though you said it's a very personal God, and we must handle this by feeling the compassion of Krishna personally within our own hearts during these times of suffering, but also we have to come to understand that sort of equanimity, or that equipoise that arises from a detached attitude towards material nature. That material nature, as the Buddha said, will always bring suffering upon us, and we have to not only let it be and let it go, but learn to accept that suffering is part of the nature of this world, and that we are aiming for another world. Does that sound at all a correct way to view these things?
There are so many ways to view these things. I find most people find it difficult to enter that philosophical detached space when they are overwhelmed with emotions. It is absolutely correct. We have to get out of the problem by stepping away from it. You know, we can talk about how everything that happens to us here is like a dream. You know, the entire lifetime of Brahma describes in Bhagavatam for Krishna is less than a moment, less than 1/11 of a second, right? So most people find it difficult. If you are able to take shelter of that, that is glorious. That's wonderful. It is definitely one way of doing it. And to your point of, isn't Krishna with us all the time? Yes, he's in every atom and molecule. He's in our hearts. But to what degree is he present for us? As in, how aware am I that he is present? Because when we take a step away from our problem, we are stepping into another space. What space are we stepping into? Is it a philosophical space? Is it a space of a personal relationship with Krishna? Is it a space of ecstasy? Is it a space of yearning prayer to Krishna? Please protect me from the demons of my mind who are misinterpreting everything that is happening to me. So when we step away from our problem, we can also be conscious of what space am I stepping away into, because that will determine what we learn from the problem, whether our Krishna consciousness deepens, whether our faith breaks, and actually also if the problem resolves itself. Because often things that are brought to us they're brought to bring to attention something in us. The happenings of this world are there as a mirror. And they're not a mirror of what I did wrong or didn't do wrong. It's a mirror of what am I still putting in the way between me.
Can we share something of what Srila Prabhupada said about this?
Please.
He gives the analogy, a child is dreaming that a tiger is chasing him, and the father is there, and he says, no, wake up, it's only a dream. Your father is here, you're safe. So the faith comes by hearing. We get a glimpse into that other world by hearing from somebody who's awake, calling us out of the dream. You're not this body. You cannot be burned by the fire, withered by the wind, cut by the sword, moistened by the rain, offended by somebody's harsh words. You are the soul, immutable, unchangeable. And the soul, besides the fact of being called out of the dream situation where we think we're in pain and in danger, go on in devotional service. Like Bhima was saying, we go into another world. You also mentioned this, that besides withdrawing from the misperception, then we must, as an alternative, step into the reality that devotional service is my goal. Martin Luther King says, my goal of my life is not to avoid pain or achieve pleasure, but to do God's will, come what may.
Yes.
I'll let it
Beautiful.
go. I'm talking too much. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I think your answer was so ecstatic. Bhima Prabhu's left his seat.
He's dancing around the car in ecstasy. Yeah. Thank you very much, Iti Shakti. Wonderful class / therapeutic session, bhakti therapy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We would like to request Dana Krishna's Radharani to unmute herself and recite the Maha Mantra to complete the offering for today. Dana Krishna's Radharani, please.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare wonderful is Krishna. Hare Bo, I love you guys so much. So
Aw.
grateful to be here. So grateful to be here so much. It's wonderful. All the things I always need to hear. Thank you. Hare Bo.
Thank you, Dana
Thank
Krishna.
you,
She's
Hare
our
Krishna.
reciter. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Chiti Shakti Devi Dasi ki jai. Everybody on this call and outside too, ki jai. Hare Krishna, we love you, we need you. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.